What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of BAM GPG. And Bryson, happy draft day eve. So tomorrow,
Yes.
yes, so tomorrow is the kickoff of the 2025 NFL draft, which is hosted in Green Bay.
This recording.
Yes, yep, absolutely. So it's hosted in Green Bay this year. We have the 23rd pick in this year's draft, so pretty excited about it. Excited to see what Green Bay does tomorrow night. Do we move up,
Yeah.
move back? Do we stay put at 23? So it'll be interesting.
Real
Um, you know,
quick,
yeah,
I just want to make a mention about Travis Hunter saying he likes Green Bay.
yeah, isn't that something? So yeah, Travis Hunter, kind of known for the kind of laid back, cool, calm. Likes the um kind of slow environment, right? He's not into that hustle and bustle of the bigger cities, all the um nightlife activities, things like that. So yeah, he did make the comments today that he was enjoying Green Bay, kind of the laid back atmosphere that it is there. So wouldn't that be something if Green Bay was able to pull something to move up and draft him? I highly doubt it. Don't think it's possible, but um,
If it is, then
that
do
would
it.
be fantastic. Absolutely. But anyway, Bryson, so what we're going to do for today's episode, guys, so we're going to run through since it is draft day eve, we're going to run through a 3-round mock draft with, none other than the Green Bay Packers. So we're going to do 3 rounds. I'll take the first pick. Bryson will have the second, and then we'll kind of mutually agree on the third pick. Bryson, I think we just do this one straight. Let's do it with no trades, assuming we stay put at pick 23. We don't move up or down on it, and see what's
Yeah.
available for us.
I'm sure we might, though. I'm sure we might make some trades in the draft.
It's a possibility. Yeah. I mean, if we're sitting there in the draft and there's, a premier edge rusher, a premier wide receiver that's kind of slipping out of that top 10, absolutely. Why not go up and grab them, right? But if who you have on the board starting to kind of get picked away by the time it gets to you, maybe it does make sense to move back a few spots, pick up some extra draft capital a little bit later in the draft. But we'll see how it shakes out. It's always interesting on draft day. You never know what's really going to happen. So we'll see. It'll be fun. I'm excited for it. First round is tomorrow night in Green Bay. So Bryson, let's go ahead and get this final mock draft kicked off here. I'll go
Yes.
ahead and share it out. So again, it's going to be 3-round mock draft. We're not going to do any trades this time. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off here. And we'll do a quick recap here of some of the top picks before we get into our pick at 23.
Okay.
So I slowed the draft speed down a little bit here, Bryson, so we can kind of keep up with it. So let me scroll back up to the top. So Cam Ward, naturally, Tennessee needs a quarterback. He went number 1 overall to Tennessee. Travis Hunter, pound for pound, it's got to be the best player in the draft, right? There's a possibility he could play both ways, cornerback, wide receiver. We'll see on that one, but he went to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland could also, I wouldn't put it past Cleveland to draft a quarterback, maybe like a Shedeur Sanders, because I think Cam Ward is probably the consensus number 1 draft pick this year. So I could see them going a quarterback route too, possibly trading out of that number 2 spot, because I think you can get Shedeur a little bit later on in the draft. So, if they wanted to trade out, pick up some extra draft capital in the draft, they could certainly do that. But here they took Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, top edge rusher in the draft. Guy's a stud, right? So he went number 3 overall to New York. New York also needs a quarterback, so they're kind of in that position. Quarterback's not real deep this year. It's not a lot of options. Shedeur's probably the second best in the draft, so they could possibly. I don't think there's. I would be shocked if Tennessee passed up on Cam Ward. I'll say that, but I could see the Giants, possibly moving back. Out of their spot to pick up extra capital and draft a guy like Shedeur. And then you got McMillan, top wide receiver, going to New England. So Drake May's getting an extra weapon there. Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State, went to Jacksonville. They could certainly use, it can't hurt, as we've seen this past year. The running backs are kind of back, right? You saw the impact Saquon had on the Eagles. You look at the Lions offense too, right? That offense is ran or kind of rammed through that running game, right? Specifically Jameer Gibbs. They got that 2-back set, so it never hurts to have decent running backs there. Ashton Genty, Mason Graham, defensive lineman from Michigan. I like this guy a lot, but he went number 6 overall to Oakland. And then let's scroll down here. So the Bears went with a linebacker from Alabama, Jaheed Campbell. Will Johnson, cornerback, went to the San Francisco 49ers. Jahdae Barron, so 2 cornerbacks off the board, went to the Dallas Cowboys. And then scrolling down, Mike Green. This will be interesting, Bryson. So Mike Green, an edge rusher. I like him a lot, right? I think the guy's a stud. He's got a high motor. He's a big body. He's great in the pass defense. He's great in the run defense. If he falls to 15, if I were Green Bay, I wouldn't be making a strong push to trade up for that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Bryson.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, I mean, if he would fall to 15, I would be biting at the chop there to get him. So that's it. So he went to Atlanta. And then Michael Williams, an edge rusher from Georgia, went to the Bengals. That'll be an interesting one to watch there too, Bryson, because I remember Trey Henderson. It's been a lot of talk. It's kind of quieted down here recently with the draft coming up, but don't forget Trey Hendrickson. They just paid both those wide receivers there, and Higgins and Jamar Chase. So it looks like Hendrickson's. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to have enough money to go around for him. He's been the sack leader the last couple of years here, so he's going to warrant a heavy payday. So we'll see if they, there could be some draft day trades around him as well. So keep an eye on that one. Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman from Michigan. I also love him a lot. He went to the Broncos. And then Ibuka, wide receiver, Ohio, went right before us to the Chargers. So Bryson, that brings us on the board.
Why didn't they just take Luther Burden?
Good question. Luther Burden, I like him a lot. It's a good wide receiver. Let's pull him up here. So Luther Burden had an overall grade of 77.9. Did play 12 games, so it's pretty decent amount of work here. He had 676 yards. This kind of head scratching. He's down half the amount of yardage that he was the previous season. Takes a lot of snaps out of the slot spot, right? So 261 to 36 there, 6 touchdowns on the year. His receiving grade's excellent, 80.2. Grade versus man coverage is pretty good too, 78.8 there. And size-wise, he's 5'11", 208. I mean, he's a good, solid wide receiver. For Green Bay, we don't need another slot wide receiver. We need somebody who's got some experience outside. Christian Watson's going to be out the first 12 weeks. We need to replace that production. So when I look at wide receiver in this draft specifically, we're going to have to find somebody who can kind of take that top off the defense. We're going to need that true wideout. So I don't know if I would spend it on Luther Burden here in the first round, Bryson. Let's take a look at Walter Nolan, defensive lineman. So he had an 88.9 overall grade on the season, 6 sacks. This is an interior defensive lineman, 4 hits on the quarterback, 25 hurries, and 2 batted passes. So his pass rush grade was, pretty good, slightly above average at 75, and his run defensive grades where he really excelled, 91.6. Green Bay's going to need that big body run stuffer. He's 6'3", 305. Walter Nolan, Ole Miss. I'm split between him and James Pierce Jr., who also had a pretty good season, 87.1, 8 sacks, 43 quarterback hurries, and 1 batted pass. His pass rush grade was pretty good, 89.4, and his run defensive grade was an 84.1. He's a 6'5", 243-pound defensive end from Tennessee. All right, Bryson, I need some help here. James Pierce Jr. or Walter Nolan?
James Pierce Jr.
That's kind of where I'm leaning to. Let's take that premier edge rusher. I'm going to do it. So that brings us to the second round, Bryson, and that's going to be your pick here. Once we kind of shuffle through here. See, Shedeur just came off the board here with the first pick in the second round. That'll be interesting. Do you think he falls to the second round?
No.
I don't think so either, just because there are so few talented quarterbacks in this year's draft class. It would be hard to believe that he would fall to the second round. If he starts falling in the first round, I could see a team trading up out of the second round back into the first round to draft him. So we'll see. I saw Higgins from Iowa State came off the board here early in the second, so that's a tough one there. I was hoping for him here. But Bryson, you're up. 54th pick in the 2025 NFL draft.
Let's look at Alec Amore.
Alec Manor. So
Nope.
here's an interesting one. I don't want to make a pick for you here, but Cam Skattebo, running back. We have Josh Jacobs, but we do have that. We do have a rookie last year who didn't see a lot of playing time from USC, so we're going to get him back. We'll see what he looks like out on the field. But again, it doesn't hurt to have a true 1-2 punch at running back. You got a defensive lineman, Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee, so we could go back-to-back Volunteers here.
Let's look at wide receiver.
All right, let me pull up the wide receiver. So you
Let's
didn't
look at
like
Jalen Royals.
Yeah, Jalen Royals. So he
Nope,
graded out.
nope.
No Jalen. All right.
Actually, let's look at that running back you were talking about.
Yeah, so I'll pull up the running backs here. Cam Skattebo.
Let's take a look at him.
Caleb Johnson's on there too. So Cam, this guy's a dog, right? Hell of a player. He's a good footballer. So his overall grade was a 93.3. He had 1,712 rushing yards. Ridiculous. Receiving yards, also pretty decent. 543 there for running back. His rushing grade was excellent, 94.6. His zone grade was an 87.3. His cap running grade was a 93.2. Elusive rating, 140.3. And yards after contact, pretty good. I'd like to see this above 4. It's 4.09. He's a 5'11", 215-pound running back.
Let's take a look at Caleb Johnson.
Caleb Johnson, so our Iowa boy here. So he didn't have the best combine, right? He's a little bit slow on his 40 time, wasn't spectacular, but we know him well from Iowa, right? Watching him. He's a solid running back. He's not going to overpower you with speed. He reminds you a lot of Josh Jacobs, right? Very precise. 86.5 for him. Had 1,535 yards, 21 touchdowns, 190 receiving yards, rushing grade 86.7. And his yards after contact was 4.42. He's 6 foot, 225 pounds.
I don't know.
If you're thinking running back here, I really like Cam a lot.
I have to take Cam. I love Caleb Johnson, but I just have to take him.
All right, let's do it. Kind of pulling the Lions when they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. That was a head scratcher for everyone, and then it made sense, right? A year or two after. So Bryson, that brings us on the clock here to the 87th pick in the NFL draft as it comes around to us again. And I think let's look at a wide receiver here in this round, okay?
Okay, yeah.
So you got Xavier Restrepo and Savion Williams. Torrey Horton's a pretty decent one too. It's probably a little bit high for him. Let's take a look at Xavier.
Isaac Tesla.
Yes. So Xavier Restrepo, 81.8 overall grade for the season, 1,127 yards, pretty solid, 11 touchdowns. Receiving grades, great, 83. Even there, grade versus man coverage, 87.6. Contested catch rate, I'd like to see that above 50%. He was at 61.5. Slots versus wide, right? So he's primarily a slot wide receiver, 448 snaps there and only 47 out wide. He's 5'10", 198 pounds coming out of Miami. So good wide receiver. Not that true wide out, but he's a good wide receiver. Savion Williams, a little bit lower grade here, but you're replacing the body size, right? So he's 6'5", 225. You lean in one way here or another, Bryson?
I'm leaning towards Xavier Restrepo.
Xavier Restrepo. Let's do it. We're going to go ahead and pull him here. And that'll run us through the end of the third round. Again, we're just doing a quick 3-round mock draft here tonight. Let that load up here for us. There we go. So, kind of run through our grades. So, James Pierce Jr., Cam Scatterbo, Xavier Restrepo. So, A minus, C plus, and an A minus. Finished with a B plus.
They didn't like my Cam Scatterbo.
No, and here's the thing, right? It wasn't a position of need, but again, when it's kind of a copy of what the Lions did, right? You look at the Lions when they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. Definitely wasn't a position of need. They came up to grab him. Kind of shocked everyone. They were excited about it, and you saw why a couple years later, right? You saw kind of the benefit to having two solid running backs. What that does for the Lions, their offense really kind of turns when both of them are out there. So I know it doesn't make sense on paper, but give it some time. There's some thought behind it. I think it would be great to have another running back with Josh Jacobs, have that great 1-2 punch.
Real quick, I just want to mention the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about it.
The Celtics won today.
Celtics did, yeah. So Celtics are looking great again. They shouldn't have any issues in this round. Bulls didn't make it in through the play-in. You got a good one out west between the Lakers and T-Wolves. They're tied up at 1 game apiece out there, so that'll be a fun one to watch.
I actually believe the Warriors and the Rockets are playing right now.
Yeah, and the Warriors, I believe they took game 1 too as well, so
yes.
Should be fun. NBA playoffs are in full gear, so we'll keep an eye on that as well as we kind of progress through the off season here. But Bryson, I'm excited. Drafts tomorrow night. We'll be back on after the first round, kind of do a quick recap, see where players were taken. Again, it's going to be completely different on draft nights, and it never goes as expected. Green Bay's in an interesting position, right? We have 23rd pick. If players don't fall our way, do we trade back? Possibly. We'll see. It'll be interesting. But as always, Bryson,